Folks, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show, and had such a good time with this cat yesterday. Decided to pick up the conversation again. Transcendent Santos, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Well, I love to be here with you, Jake. It's been a real pleasure talking to you over the last couple days and meeting you with Oliver, and I appreciate the conversation and the spirit connection.
Me too. Can you talk about what you think are the strongest qualities of leadership in a band and how you try to lead?
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing. I mean, I think in some ways I've always seen myself as a pretty poor leader of a band, you know.
What are the qualities of leadership that you are inspired by, or that?
Let me say.
Because I think we all fall short in that.
Yeah, but I also think that there's a way of like leading a band dependent upon the kind of band that you want to have. You know, there's all these formulas now where they've been like, musicians have been deeply like influenced by like our capitalistic kind of paradigm, Protestant work ethic and all this kind of thing. So there's a lot of this thing of tending to run rehearsals as if like it's a job and everything is like kind of this thing. I've always been really bad at that. But I love playing music.
Yeah, right.
I don't like the formula. You know, I love working on things, but not. I also think there's like a more esoteric kind of something beyond that can get people like vibe together.
Absolutely, it's called trust. Yeah,
yeah, and that trust thing. So I mean, in some ways, like I've been playing, like of course I have like a family more than I have a band. You know, like I have musicians all over the West Coast and now in Portugal, to people that I play with, and it's always like Dylan or anybody else. There's you don't always have the same band. People kind of come in and out, and I guess that's one thing I don't know if I've been good at it, but it's been the universe has been good to me in that like I have a family of musicians like Oliver, like Jason Simon and Joe Lewis and Dave Mahaly and Charles Gonzalez and all these people that I really, really love and I love to play music with. And we're like Annie Girl, Wild Hawk. It's like a family, it's a team. Or not a team, I hate that word. It really is like a family. It's a band in the American Indian sense, you know. For the
layperson, explain the aesthetic of the Indian family. Like none of them are hung up on what the mainstream understanding of what you don't suck everything out during rehearsals. You just play.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, there's that, and I mean, as far as the mainstream thing, like I could just care less because. But
in that collective group, everybody's on the same frequency.
Yeah,
nobody's caught up in that.
Well, that's
like why aren't we doing why aren't we doing with all those other people?
Yeah, I've had that.
Oh, sure.
You know, certainly have had that, but I tend to like gravitate towards musicians, and musicians gravitate towards me that are of a particular bent, like people that are like just slammed by spirit, by like, you know, they're just like life is almost too much, you know. And also like the people I play with are absolutely pathologically anti-authoritarian. Like, even if I wanted them to play it the same way, even if we wanted to work it out and it to be like this, they will not do it. Dave Mahaly will not play what I ask him to play. You know that, Dave. And it's beautiful. It's just, I mean, it's like the Dead were like that too. Like, they're not going to play. I mean, so what you really are doing is finding personalities and finding certain musical spirits, and you have to be willing to, it's not even say take the good with the bad, but it's like you got to be willing to take the package, you know. And then there's a relationship and a conversation, just like there is in any friendships, towards working out where we can all be in a conversation here, you know. Like if your friend's like dominating the conversation, all drunkenly talking too loud, hey man, like lower it down a little bit, man. Let the rest of us have a little, you know, let me have my 2 cents in here. It could be like that with music too. But I mean, the leadership, like qualities.
Let me ask you. This is important because Coltrane, Dave Holland told me that When Train first joined Miles, he would keep coming up to Miles and say, "What do you want me to play? What do you want me to play?" And Miles kept turning his back on him.
Yeah.
And it didn't dawn on Train until he realized, oh, he wants me to be myself. He brought me in to be. So I mean, can you talk about a specific time when maybe somebody you brought in that you knew was just marinating in spirit, but yet they were insecure and they wanted to please you, but you kept basically in your own way saying, "I want you to be you."
Well,
because you're never going to tell Dave. You know that going in, you're not going to try to. It's about letting go of control and bringing people in.
That's what it's about, and I think the lessons, much more of the lessons, have been the other way on me. Like when I started playing with Dave Mahaly as an example, I had loved his playing with Jolie Holland. I had loved his playing with the free jazz, spiritual jazz groups in Los Angeles or in San Francisco that he played with. So I'd seen him around. I'd loved his drumming. And when he approached me and said that he liked my music and if I ever needed a drummer, I thought, well, dude, I'm getting to play with a legend, But as soon as we started kind of playing and going through things, I'd just be like, man, where the hell is this guy putting the beat? I mean, I had so much insecurity in my own thing, and I had an idea of what I thought the song was supposed to sound like, where I thought the beat was supposed to be. And it's not even to say that it's wrong, but there was a lot of frustration until I realized that, well, sometimes I'd get all frustrated, and then I'd get off stage after show, and people would be like, dude, that drummer's so awesome, that was great. And I thought, man, dude, it's like I was beating my head up against the wall the whole time.
Really?
Looking behind me, like, where the hell is this and that? But then it's like, once I let go and realized, no, well, if I'm working with Dave, it's because I like what Dave does, and there is still some conversation, like, yo, man,
of course,
put the penny whistle down while I'm doing this song. Like, I don't need.
Yeah, no, there's cues and stuff.
There's definitely things like that, but or like Joe Lewis, the guy that's played bass with me off and on for years. He's a really particular player, and they all have their own voice. They all sound. It's like you can't make these people. I mean, it's not going to do you any good to be like, listen, we want this to be like 4 on the floor and just play the root notes. I mean, if I want that, then I go with other people, because there's players like that I can.
What would be your advice to other cats, trans, about like how did you learn to? Because what happens, you get off the stage and you've been not in the moment spiritually, musically, because you've been a little bit frustrated, and then all of a sudden somebody's saying, "Boy, that drummer's fucking righteous," and then you're like, I just wasted minutes of that gig not in the moment.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
So how to talk to cats about how you've learned over time to let go.
Well, okay,
of that.
So that's where like the spirit thing comes into it, because with music, it's like we're on a parallel path, man. Well, it's a conversation with spirit. It is absolutely like a conversation with the divine, man. And so all of this work that we do technically to get good, to be able to, like, it's the same reason why like a Buddhist monk is going to meditate for all these hours in the Himalaya. It's because they're trying, they have to, the discipline is to get you to a point where you have the technical ability to be able, where that's not holding you back.
Exactly.
And then beyond that, it's just also the recognition, though, that the technical ability ain't going to get you nowhere without the spirit connection. So it's like sometimes what you need is not to go and practice the Mixolydian scale for another 2 hours, but you need to eat the eighth of mushrooms in the forest by yourself and have a good cry and release a lot of this shit so that you can be a clearer channel. So, I mean,
you tended to go more towards the maybe cleansing yourself through psychedelics.
Well, at a certain point, because there was years where I was just so concentrating on music, so concentrating on my career, so-called career, so concentrating on all this shit that I had let the spirit part and my relationship with psychedelics, and it doesn't have to just be psychedelics, but my relationship, my spiritual inner relationship,
Absolutely.
I had let it slip by, thinking that I could just work on music and that I was going to become the musician that I wanted to be. And at a certain point I realized I need to have a good cry. I need to blow my brain open. I need to let go of a bunch of the shit that's in here that's keeping me from singing my song, that's keeping me from playing without fear. I mean, dude.
Or allowing other people to play and not getting hung up on.
Or that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like exactly that as well. Like now, it's like, I mean, you kind of. It's just there's more of an acceptance thing. Also, it's. I mean, it's not precious, man.
I love that line. That is so. It is not this precious.
Yeah, man. Like
thing.
like moments like. Come and go, like like some Dead shows weren't that great. Some were like
some were great because of yeah. I mean,
and some were not that great until they were. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't realize that. Like just a little sidebar on the Grateful Dead, but especially later, where the shows were really inconsistent. When I was seeing them, sometimes you'd have a pretty mediocre show, but then halfway through the second set, something happens in the middle of a song, in the middle of He's Gone. And they just catch fire.
Right.
And then it's there. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God. And then that last hour of the show is brilliant. And you forget about the fact that they were struggling for the first hour and 45 minutes or whatever it was. So I don't know. I mean, and in terms of Miles Davis, just to get back to that, another thing Miles would do, story that I heard, was that he wouldn't let dudes practice the songs. No. He just wanted them to practice being good. Like, work on music.
Dude, McLaughlin...
work on your scales, work on this, but, show me the song. What do you want me to play? Like, nah, man. Just know music. And it's, and there's something about that, too. Like, I never want a band to be over-rehearsed. That's the worst. You don't want to be too unrehearsed, but to me, it's like, my music is not rocket science, It's all modal, folk, rock and roll, whatever. It's not rocket science. If I play with the kind of great players that I play with, it doesn't take a lot of like rehearsing the songs to play those songs great. These are great players. They just have to know the structure of the song, and if there's a head, if there's some different things here, but you got to keep it alive, Otherwise, you go on autopilot, you start playing something, and you're on autopilot instead of really...
Right. Well, no, that's my next question is if for people that are going to... Because you do have different configurations of your bands and different people coming in and out. Like on...
Yeah, it's like...
Can you honestly talk about... Like, I think that's the thing. When you over-rehearse, then the songs atrophy. And they can't take on a life of their own. And that's the magic of live music, is that... Especially in the folk aesthetic, is that... you allow the songs to grow and take on a life of their own.
Yeah.
Can you talk about if people are going to check you out live in a setting with other people in a band, should they expect to hear the exact way the song is played on the album, or is it going to be never play the same song the same way once?
It's like that. It's almost never. Well, for one, the album and the live thing are just two different art forms, and they're both amazing, and I just love both of them.
But in our pop, especially in a lot of patrons go to hear exactly what the record sounds like, which is not what I'm about.
Like for me, I've certainly disappointed a lot of people because of that. I mean, I remember, I mean, for sure, there's no doubt about it. But then also, like, there's stuff that the band has done live, and there's been live performances that I've given, both with the band and solo, that no record I've done yet can compare to.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Just like there's, so I mean, I'm always getting better at it too. Like I feel like now I'm back in the United States for a little bit. I just spent the last 2 years almost exclusively playing solo and touring solo in Europe. And that was super good for me because it was like returning to my folk blues solo, like just a folk musician out there with my acoustic guitar, and having to be in a relationship with the audience every night where it's just me and them, like that Neil Young thing where it's just, either you can do it or not. There ain't no loops, there ain't no, you know what I mean? There's no backing tracks. It's just a straight shot. And that's been really good for me. And I feel like now coming back and starting to play with musicians again, being here in town, playing with Ollie, playing with Catfish, back in San Francisco, playing with my band there, and getting ready to do a new record. I feel like I've learned a lot, man, and the idea of going into the studio right now to cut a record, the idea of playing shows with the group, it's a lot more exciting for me. There's a lot. I'm not holding on to anything. Like there was a time where I was holding on to too much shit, and
well, and that's totally normal. I mean, I think that was there I mean, outside of all the iconic people that we worship and love, is there a leader that you worked with that was really inspiring for you because of how unorthodox or how outside the box?
Well, Dave Mahal is a perfect example. So with Dave's band, like I started watching Dave's band and the way that he led a band as a band leader and as a composer. And
how was that?
Well, it was like this kind of amazing, like spirit jazz kind of approach. He's got this great trio. They were a quartet for a while. Really amazing. You can tell that they don't do like rehearsals,
right,
like in any traditional sense. Like Dave will chart things out in a real simple way.
Sketch it out, yeah.
Like if there's like the head, the melody, that'll be like kind of written out. But then it's like, hey, we go into it this way, and then here, in the middle, then we're gonna do like, it's gonna go to the saxophone here, and it'll be like, it's just kind of like sketched out, but then really what it is, it's just vibe, and when that band plays, it's almost always just incredible. It's just brilliant. My favorite band in San Francisco, and you just almost like you don't know where the music starts and the audience, or the music ends and the audience begins sometimes. Like, right. I remember they would do shows sometimes at the bar that I would work at, and before the show started, like Dave would come up to the bar and ask me to start turning the music